Welcome back to another episode of Important Miscellaneous Talks. I'm your host, Glacier Crossfield. Please introduce yourself, guys.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
African Prince.
And I'm Sonnybabie.
All right, so for those of the people who may not know, how would you describe what you do, sir, Sonny?
What do I do? Well, I make videos on TikTok, but specifically like videos about music. I like to talk about artists. I like to tell stories about artists, biopics, instances. I like to review music from well-known artists, upcoming artists, and artists who are just kind of independent, and they just kind of want to get an idea of what their music sounds like.
I have an artist that I want to listen to after this.
Yeah, 100%.
So walk us through your journey for your love of music. Where did that stem from?
Well, the funny thing is like when I was younger, I actually didn't really like music. And that's because I'm the youngest and only have sisters. So every time they would play music, it was always like Destiny's Child and stuff like that. You know what I mean? TLC, stuff like that. And so I myself just never really connected to it until I got older. But really how it started was when I was a kid, I came across DMX. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the raspiness of his voice. I loved the intensity. I remember like being a kid, going over to my cousin's house and just seeing like music videos on BT and 106 and Park and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with it. Everything really started to get going though. Like when I like saw this as something that I wanted to commit my life to was when my sister got married to her husband. He's a producer. He's from Africa. He's from Ghana. And so he moved over here to the United States. And when he moved in, because he lived with us, he went down to the basement, stripped everything out, and built himself a home studio. And he was just showing me, I think what he was using was Reason. And so he was using Reason to like produce beats, and he does like a lot of African dancehall type beats and everything like that. And he was just showing me just like all the hardware and all the software and everything like that. And I was just like mesmerized. I was just like, whoa, this is amazing. So that's most likely, if I were to look back on it, when it really started going for me, it's just spending time with my brother-in-law, just hours in the basement, and just him just showing me everything.
RPX, man. Did you like Pop Smoke at all?
Did I like Pop Smoke? Yeah, I like Pop Smoke. He wasn't an artist I would listen to like religiously, but I did like Pop Smoke. I like the fact that he brought something new. But at the same time, he would also parallel by bringing something old, right? Because a lot of people, when you listen to Pop Smoke, would tell you, well, he kind of does sound like a younger version of 50 back when he was at his peak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like Pop Smoke. I don't listen to him religiously, but I did like Pop Smoke and RPX.
Yeah, I think Pop Smoke, I seen it on Nori's interview. Like he had a 50 Cent type sound with like a DMX voice. So it was an interesting mix.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that's probably the most attractive aspect as to what he was able to bring to the table and why he just blew up so fast, because like exactly what you said, he was able to bring two worlds together, and I think people found that very attractive.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate he died when he did because he didn't really get to. He was only famous for 7 months, like 5 months.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I remember when he passed away. I remember because I work early mornings. I remember I got to work and I clocked in, and then I just checked my Twitter just to see what's up, and it just said Pop Smoke dead at the age of, how old was he when he died?
20.
Yeah, just a kid, 20 years old. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, there's no way. Like he just now just started going, like, you know what I mean? Like he's just now starting to blow up. How is he already, So the unfortunate truth is that he just wasn't able to get to the point where he should have been,
Welcome to the Party dropped in July, and then he died that February, next February.
Yeah.
That shows you how short of a time span it was.
Yeah. It was like that. And then with him having his posthumous albums, Shoot for the Moon, Aim for the Stars.
I like that one.
Yeah. That was a good project.
That one's a really good project. And then I remember, RP Virgil, but I remember last time Virgil was headlining was when he did the cover art for that. But that was still a really good posthumous album when typically they're not good. So that one was a pretty good one. And again, 50 has a lot of credit with that one. And then he did this most recent one, or they did this most recent one from
Trash.
Yeah, trash.
Yeah.
Didn't have good reviews. I only listened to a couple tracks, but I couldn't get. It was a lot of throwaways, which you could tell. And the fact that he passed away so soon, he wasn't able to build himself a catalog where we could just constantly keep getting more and more music. Like Juice has been passed away for like what, 2 years now, and they just dropped another Juice album.
Did you listen to it?
Huh?
Did you listen to it?
No, I haven't listened to it all the way yet. I haven't. I peeked a little bit once in a while, but usually when I like to listen to an album, I like to find a time where I can just turn off my brain and just listen to the album. So it's like either, when I'm working out, or if I'm doing chores, or if I'm doing this or doing that. But lately I've just been occupied with, school and stuff like that, where I just have to like use my brain and focus on other things. But I really need to find a time to dedicate myself to just listening through the entire album.
So you had mentioned that around when Pop Smoke died, it was like early morning, you was going to work. So so is TikTok your main job, or do you have a job outside of TikTok?
I've made like $2 off of TikTok.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I don't I mean, I've had offers like from people to like pay me to do reviews and stuff like that. I don't really care to do that. For me, TikTok is more therapeutic than it is monetary. Like, I don't really find it lucrative or anything like that. My main job is I work in finance. I work at an investment firm. So I work with numbers and stuff like that. But TikTok for me it's just more therapeutic than anything. I've always been an individual where I just like talking about music. I like talking to my friends about music. I like talking to my parents about music. I like talking to my family about music. Music's always on my mind. So for me, it's like, okay, well, this is TikTok, and I want to be in the community where people are talking about music.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really consider it as like a career, like for you, or something that you want to benefit from later on down the line?
Nah, not really. If that's something that somebody wants to do, that's fine. But for me, I've never really saw myself as like a content creator. I never really saw myself being a person where, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna make a career off of TikTok. Hey, don't get me wrong, if the money comes my way, I'll be more than happy to take it, but I don't really necessarily see it as like a career path or anything like that. I just like doing it because it puts me in a forum where I'm speaking to people who are like-minded, and also people who are more than willing to debate me, and they're on the contrary, on the other side. And the whole point is that we're talking about music, right? Like my number one thing is, when it comes to my channel, is that I just want it to be about music. I don't want politics. I don't want religion. I don't want anything else. If you want to go toe to toe with somebody in the comment section or with me, that's completely fine. I have no problem with that, as long as it's about music. It's about an artist. It's about the creative direction. It's about the atmosphere. As long as it's about music, that's all I care about. And so that's, and again, the reason why I do that is because I see TikTok more as therapeutic. I see it as more of something that I just enjoy doing.
What made you want to start TikTok?
Well, I don't know, really. I think it was just me drinking, to be honest with you. I was just like, because I just be down here in my studio sometimes, and I just, when I'm mixing or whatever, when I'm just, listening to music and stuff, I'll be drinking. And then
you make music as well, you just produce?
I engineer. So yeah, so I myself don't really make music. And yeah, I don't really produce. I want to get into producing, especially because it's hand in hand with engineering. Like, if you want to be a good engineer, you got to be a good producer. So that goes hand in hand. But what got me into TikToking was, I don't know, I think just one day I was just like drunk as fuck, and I just started talking shit, saying what's on my mind. Yeah, and I just recorded myself, and when I was done with it, I was like, that felt good. Like, it just felt good to just get my opinion.
You sobered up, was like, wow, I would still want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was just like, well, the funny thing is, like, when I actually first started posting on TikTok, a lot of my videos were like political and stuff like that. And then, like, my thing was, like, I made a decision. I was like down here, and I was thinking to myself, like, I made a decision, because it's like, well, if I really am going to be posting videos on TikTok with the intention of having people view them. I don't want to be in that space. I don't want to be known for that, you know, especially for how divided everything is. I don't want to be known for that or be a part of that. And also around the same time, I was also doing videos about music, and I noticed that I got a better reaction and audience when it came to the music than it did to the other stuff. So one, it was just like, again, I don't want to be all politicized and I don't want to get into that stuff. And then also I just kind of noticed that people were more interested with what I had to say when it came to music than my own political views.
So, what made you choose your direction with your content? Because you don't have like the kind of run of the mill kind of music content. You kind of go in depth about the history and the rise and fall. What made you choose that direction?
Um, so when I first started doing like the music stuff, I was doing a lot of like just kind of like artist reviews. Like it wasn't even necessarily like the story, the rise, the fall, and all that jazz. It was just kind of just artist reviews and everything like that. But I remember when I did like, I think it was, I could be mistaken, but I think it was like the Little Peep one. Just the way that I told it and the narration with it, I just noticed that people appreciated that more. And so I just kind of decided to incorporate that with more of my videos. And I noticed that people appreciated those more. And then everything kind of changed when I did the speaker knocker one. And people just like the storytelling and the narration. So it's like, okay, well, if that's what people like to hear and that's what people want, you know, if that's what people, you know, if that's what keeps them coming back, then yeah, you know. But also I do have like an admiration in the fact that I don't think people really realize that like music is, especially if you're a musician and you have the intention to be professional and make like money and see this as a career path, it's so wobbly, you know. Like there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad, and there's also a lot of ways that you can become successful, and there's also a lot of ways that you could fall off. And knowing that I do have a certain percentage of my audience being up and coming artists, I kind of want my videos in those sense for the rise and the falls to kind of be a warning as to like, hey, this like you got to be aware of if you choose this lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. How do you come up with your research? Because watching your videos, you give a lot of insight on a lot of rappers' background that we wouldn't normally know or that we wouldn't normally hear.
So I usually try my best to do artists that I myself personally am familiar with. And if I have to do an artist that I'm not so much familiar with, then I'll do more research. But the way that I come up with it is, you know, it really does stem from just how I'm feeling. Like I get a lot of like requests and stuff like that, and I'm more than happy to do artists that people requested me. But it's mostly just how I feel that day. Like, do I feel like having the energy and the must and the careness to do a Blade video or do a Little Reese video or do a Chief Keef video that day? And if that's the case, if I do feel it that day, also how am I aware of that artist? Like, do I know their history? Do I know their catalog? Do I know this discography, etc.? And I think to myself, I write down some notes, and then if there's holes and there's plots or there's pieces that I know that I'm missing or I need to double check, then I'll go ahead and I'll do my research. I'll go on YouTube and I'll look up videos and I'll look up documentaries. I'll go to, you know, publishing sites and I'll look up articles and I'll try to do my best to, you know, credit them and see if they're legitimate and stuff like that. And so then I just kind of get all that information down, and then I start just kind of making a note, like a list of points that I want to bring up in the video.
And you speak a lot about rap, and then you being getting into engineering and producing. Are there any other genres that you're interested in, or is just strictly just hip hop?
Oh no, everything. Everything. Huh?
Country?
Oh yeah, I love country. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. What's that called? Electronica, or is it called
EDM?
Yeah,
EDM.
Yeah. Well, I had EDM out of all the genres, like alternative rock, like the I hate my parents, I don't want to go to school kind of music.
Yeah.
Heavy metal.
I don't like that, like Green Day and stuff like that. I don't really like that. like Blood on the Dance Floor, Panic at the Disco, or stuff like that. I don't really pay attention to that. That's just not my cup of tea, really. EDM is probably second to that. I don't really listen to EDM as religiously as I used to, but I did like a few years ago have a trance phase where I was listening to like a lot of like Above and Beyond, for example. But I like country. I think every different genre has different aspects that shine brighter than other genres do. And a lot of people don't like country because they hear just like pop, clean country. But if you listen to like a lot of just genuine good country, some like Waylon Jennings or artists like that, Conway Twitty, for example, I love Conway Twitty. Um, the topic material and the lyrics are just absolutely beautiful, and they just hit so close to home. Um, so I try to do my best to consume all genres of music because there's so many different possibilities and there's so many different avenues and there's so many different cool twists and turns that you can get from everything. And especially if you have the intention to be like a rapper, I 110% promise you that you'll be a way better rapper if you listen to different genres rather than just rap, because it widens your array of possibilities, different avenues, different corners, right? You have so many different ways to go. And especially with rap being such a mandible sport, like it changes and it moves and it shifts, it goes larger, it goes smaller. Like rap is just not standstill, it's constantly moving. And the reason being why is because people are always trying to experiment more than any other genre. And that's how you become a big famous rapper, is because you are able to bring something new to the table. But the way that you bring something new to the table is when you incorporate different styles into your music. Does that make sense? At least that's how I feel about it.
What's your take on I really do believe as of probably say like the past 5 to like 7, 8 years, even though I think it's late, I think like America is on the Afrobeat dance hall wave craze, especially on TikTok. And to me, like, cause for me, I'm from South Africa. I'm from Johannesburg, so it's like to see people embrace it when it's always been around and act like it's like this is a new thing is kind of like ridiculous to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. And you could probably see hints of like cultural appropriation in that.
Yes, yes.
For my personal opinion about it, my number one thing is sharing is caring. If we want people to respect us as an ethnicity, as a race, as a culture, the best way to do that I believe is when people are able to learn more about it and get a better understanding of it rather than just gatekeep it. But I also do understand the fact, as in like, hey, I remember when I was younger and you would play certain music and people would be looking at you weird, and I could see why, and I can understand why some individuals may feel like, hey, you guys are just only catching on to this because you feel like it's trendy. When this is
Mhm.
our soul, this is who we are. You only enjoy it because it's trendy and it gets you numbers, right?
Facts.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of an in between for me. Like when I was little, like I remember my sisters used to come home crying from school because we live in a white state. There's a lot of white people around us, and I remember my sisters used to come home from school from crying and stuff like that because they used to have box braids and they used to have braids and stuff like that, and the teachers wouldn't let them. They would make fun of them or they would get made fun of at school. And now you see, white people want to do that stuff. So it's like I get what you're saying in that, but my number one thing is sharing is caring. It's good music, so and you really start to see that come from Drake, because I think like Drake in like 2015, 2016 really started pushing that envelope.
Every ethnicity.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think if there's anybody that cultural appropriation, I would say he's the culture vulture in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and that could be argued. It seems that he finds a genre or a subgenre that he likes, and then he pickpockets what he likes about it, and then he kind of sucks it dry, and then when he's done with it, he moves on to the next. But also at the same time, I think that he's smart enough to know that I think people kind of underestimate Drake when it comes to just his IQ. I think he genuinely is a really smart guy. Like, you can't be at the level that he is without, for how talented you are, without being smart and without being aware. So I think with that being said, I think there is a certain spec about him where he does know that's how people perceive him, but he also knows that he is the biggest artist in the world, and this is a good opportunity for people to indulge into different avenues of music where the other ways they wouldn't have. So
Yeah, it's really kind of like, there's a positive and negative to it because all the stuff you said like has a negative aspect to it, but also Drake is such a big artist where now people listen to Afro beats that they wouldn't even have the chance to do otherwise. So
yeah,
all the other things that he's dipping into, he's bringing a larger audience to it. So it does have its pros and cons. But
yeah, yeah.
what would you say is your favorite video that you did, and why?
Oh, my favorite video. Shit. Can I swear? Or no?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Fuck. I don't know. I'd probably say my Pop Smoke video was probably my favorite one that I've done. I feel like because when you do a TikTok, you want to have like a good hook, and then you also kind of want it's kind of like a narration, right? You want to have a good hook, and then you kind of want to just bring everything down a little bit, build up to the climax, and then have a climax, then have a resolution. And I felt like I kind of fit that mold pretty well with that one, and it just flowed, and it was interesting, it was enticing. Um, and I would probably say my Pop Smoke one is my favorite. Just the way that I was able to formulate everything with my expectations when making a video.
Has anyone noteworthy noticed your work?
I mean, there's like some TikTokers within the rap community, or rap talk community, I should say. Uh, there's some publishing, like rap community and stuff like that, where they're verified and stuff like that. But I don't really look at my followers or anything like that. I only really notice them if they ever post anything like on their Instagram and they tag me for credits and stuff like that. But I got followed by little Xan yesterday, which was interesting. I don't know if you've seen the video of me dogging on him, because I have a video where I'm just kind of dogging on him the entire time, but I'm sure he's a good sport about it. But yeah, he followed me yesterday, which was pretty cool. But other than that, I mean, if there has been, I don't know, because I get my notifications and I just scroll.
Who is that?
Lil Xan's actually a lot more popular than most people believe.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
I know zero of his songs, but you look at his Spotify listeners, and he has like a pretty decent following.
Yeah, no, 110% facts. No, really, like I was looking at his Spotify, or not his Spotify. I was looking at his TikTok today, and he does like pretty good numbers. Like for someone who you would consider fell off, he does really good numbers with this TikTok. But you may know Xan if you haven't heard his music or anything like that. He was really big in like 2017, 2018. And I think he's mostly known for his like mental health issues, because he blew up with Slingshot and he blew up with Betrayed. And he was a really big SoundCloud rapper back then, so that was pretty interesting.
That looks
he's like tatted all over his face, right?
Yeah.
He looks freaking nuts, bro. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
He looks freaking nuts.
Yeah, he looks insane. Yeah.
Oh, him. Yeah, he's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and and the funny thing is like he was never, like I said this in my video, because I made a video about him. He wasn't like, he just wasn't meant for fame. Like if you look at Tekashi 6ix9ine, right? Whether if he was a rapper or not, Tekashi would still be famous, in my personal opinion. That guy was born to be famous.
If he had his own podcast, that would fake blow up too, low key.
Oh yeah, 110%. Because he knows how to read a room, he knows people, he knows how to grab attention. That's Tekashi, right? LeBron James, for example, was put on this earth to play basketball. Tekashi was put on this earth to be famous. Little Xan was put on this earth to do whatever he wants to do, but
do drugs.
Doing drugs or whatever. But I think he's in rehab right now, and if he is, I think that's good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, but he just had a huge mental breakdown after his fall off, and he's just had a hard time with it. And I think from what I see, he's coming back, which is good. But yeah. But as far as to answer your question, that's really about it.
Out of all the videos that you did, what was kind of like during your research, what was the moment where you're like, wow, I didn't even know that? Like, something new that you learned throughout your research?
Ooh, like for like particular artists or something that I noticed that like that's like a
Yeah,
trend or
like
something.
something that you wouldn't have known without the research that really caught your eye.
Hmm. Well, okay. So I'll probably say this. So like when I did like my Mayhem video, um, Mayhem being a black metal band from Norway, and they're known for burning down churches, and there was Satanists, and members of their group committed suicide, and members of their group killed each other. It's like a whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
What
yeah.
type of band is this?
Black metal. So yeah, they're a black metal band. Black metal is very satanic. Black metal is very heavy. The lyrics and topic material are very depressing and sad and dark. I know people who are metalheads and they don't even listen to black metal because for them it's too depressing and too
Damn.
stuff like yeah, but I think one thing that surprised me was because I was always aware of their story. If you're not aware of their story, you should look at my video or look up look it up on YouTube and stuff like that. But their story is really interesting. But something that I didn't know when I was doing my research was they had a singer, their lead singer, his name was Dead, and he was so consumed with the idea of death and pain and misery that like he would he would like kill birds or find dead birds on the side of the road or in a forest or anything, and then he would like put them in a box and he would like stuff them under his bed, so that way when the bodies would decay his room would smell of death, like it would just smell like death, rotting the corpse birds, like dead birds. And also he would also like there's this book that quotes it, but he would also like go to like graveyards and he would like dig like holes in graveyards, and then he would put clothes in the graveyards. Like he would put clothes in the ground, and then he would like cover up the clothes, and then he would like leave for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then if they had a performance, he would go back to the graveyard, you know, undig his clothes, bury up his clothes, and then he would put his clothes back on and then perform, because by then his clothes were deteriorating from being in the ground for so long that he would look like a living dead corpse, because he was just that committed to the music and he was just that committed to the aesthetic and he was that committed to the idea of death and misery and pain and darkness and stuff like that. So that to me, out of all my research, was probably the most like amazing, not amazing, but the most like whoa, I never, like mind-blowing one out of them all.
I wish I hadn't asked that question. Holy.
Yeah, people go crazy.
My lord.
Yeah.
No, they need therapy.
Yeah, I
Oh
definitely
yeah.
listen.
And that's the reason why I did that video, is because I'm not doing it to like glorify what they did or be like, wow, look how cool this is. But it's like we hear stories of rappers all the time, and we also hear stories of other musicians who just get so lost into the realm of music that they just go batshit and crazy. Because I don't care what anybody says, I think there's a certain aspect of you that has to be like mentally twisted or turned on or turned off in order for you to make really creative, out of this world music. And I think for some musicians to tap into that sphere, I mean, you know what I mean? Like you gotta be able to tap into that sphere of thinking that you gotta go crazy. So sometimes
a lot of like the goats are heavily disturbed. You know, let's be honest. Like,
oh yeah, Michael Jackson, Prince,
yeah, Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, exactly.
Yeah.
They
Right?
all
Like
have.
they all have something going on, right? The lead singer for Linkin Park, he passed away from suicide. Six Dogs, he passed away from suicide. Like, it's a legit
Nirvana.
thing, you know?
No, what's his name? It was Nirvana, right?
Yeah, Kurt
No,
Cobain.
Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, but some people say that he actually was murdered by hitman that was hired by his ex or soon to be ex-wife at the time. But for the most part, he hated being famous. He loved music, but he hated the world that he was getting into. And also you got to take in consideration the fact that if you're a top tier musician, like how many times are you on the road? How many times are you at public appearances? How many times are you in interviews? How many times, like how much time do you have to record? How much time do you got to keep face, right? And I think for a lot of musicians it kind of gets overwhelming to a point where they have to self-medicate, where they're drinking, and then they eventually start doing other drugs, and because their psyche's all messed up, they go mad. So when I do videos like the Six Dogs one, or if I do videos like the Mayhem one, those videos are more of a warning, as into like, hey, like, because I know a lot of people that watch my videos, they themselves are artists with the intention of being superstars. So you got to just be aware as to like, hey, there's a lot of glitz and glamour, but also just be aware this also comes with it, or at least a possibility of it.
I it's a great debate, but because I debated a lot, like I think a lot of artists are better on the drugs, to be honest. Their sound, their music changes, like when Future, when he got off drugs, Eminem when he got off, like
Yeah.
it just changes, and it don't hit the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point, because that could be argued. Like for example, when Little Peep died, some people in his camp said that his label encouraged him to do drugs because they felt like it opened the creativity for him to make better music. And there's a saying, right? Like I forgot what it is. Don't quote me on it, but essentially I'm paraphrasing it, but it's like you make the best music when you're heartbroken, right? It's just when your mind's not in the best place. A lot of people feel like in order for you to get past that mental and creative block, drugs and self-medication will be a great way to do that. But when you just do that so often for so long, you go crazy. And some artists realize that, which is good, and then they stop, but then they have to be creative without the crutch of drugs and alcohol. And you know what I mean? So then they have to be creative themselves, and because of a different atmosphere, their music is going to sound different. I wouldn't necessarily say that for a lot of musicians their music, like, it's terrible afterwards. There's some musicians you could argue that. I think like Metallica for a lot of people could be one of those, but I could be wrong. But
I think
at the end of the day, their mental health matters. So
I think Black people need to get into pop. Talk about more uplifting things. Not others are in too many gang beefs or committing suicide. It happens, but at a much less rate. It seems they tend to stay out of trouble for the most part.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I agree.
Sharon don't really be in the mix, like.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing about rap though too, right? Like, for how much I love rap, like if we're being adults and we're being honest, like a lot of the topic material is so fucked up. Like it's
we never changing the top of our lungs, like we talk about killing 4 people, like.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm a member of the Black community. I want what is best for the Black community. So it's like, do we have to at some point take a look at ourselves and be like, hey, are we kind of doing more damage than we are doing good? I don't know. But yeah, with rap is kind of really the only genre where it's like, if you get into this genre, like, expect to die either by an overdose or being shot and killed or going to jail. It's kind of like signing up to be part of the mafia when you're making music.
You just signing like an early death, bro. Like, 50 gone, grandkids finito, like, not happening.
Exactly, which is weird because it's like other like country artists aren't like that. Pop artists aren't like that.
True.